Hey brothers, welcome to How Love Works, where we talk about the principles for lasting love. I know it's been a long time coming, but let me share some things with you why it's been so long. I've been having a few medical issues, specifically with my teeth. They've been bothering me, and one in particular, and hadn't been able to share since that time, and so now I've finally got it taken care of. So I decided, this would be a very good time for us to get back together again so we can kind of wrap up our talk about manhood matters. Been really enjoying that conversation with you guys, and today I'm going to wrap it up, and we want to talk about what are the three biggest problems facing black men in America. What are the three biggest problems facing black men in America? Well, first of all, let me say this. I'm going to tell you what the three biggest problems in America, what they're not. I'm going to share with you what most people might think are the three biggest problems, but they're not. Number one, President Trump, for all practical purposes, he's not our problem. He is a problem for some people, but he's not our problem. But that's my opinion, okay? Number two, social justice, not our problem. Not our problem. I know it's a sign of the time. That's what everybody talk about. Social justice this, social justice that. Every time you turn around, they add the word justice to the end of a word and just totally just destroy the meaning of a word. A perfectly good word. Social injustice. Anyway, that's not our problem. Okay, that's number two. Another one, the Afro Wars. That war that's kind of been, that silent war that's been going on between black American men and black American women as they've been struggling for power and position. That's not really our problem. I mean, that's not I guess you could say overwhelming and comprehensive. That's not really our issue. Our problem is a little bit deeper than that. Our problem has to do with black people as a whole. And we kind of have to look at this a little different than we normally have in the past. A lot of times we kind of look at our situations and we kind of take a hands-off approach. What I want to share with you today is I want to talk to you about a taboo in the African American community. We don't really want to put our fingers and our hands into this cookie dough, if you will. We don't want to really talk about this. One thing about black people as a whole is we really don't have a hard time pointing fingers at other communities and pointing out their dirty laundry, but when it comes to our little stuff, we want to tell people all the time, mind your business. I mean, all the time. But that's not reality. Everybody has issues. African Americans, I'm sorry, I digress. I have been to Africa, but most African Americans have never been to Africa. So let's say black Americans. We don't really want people to know what the real issues are in our community. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it out. Here are some of the basic problems. Here's some of the real issues. And so before I go ahead and give you those issues, because it's just 7 of them, I'm going to ask you one more question. One more question, brother, sister, black America. Does black lives, does it really matter? I'll wait. Does it really matter? Black lives? Because what I'm about to say to you, in my humble opinion, this is the real issue. This is the real problem. Okay? And I'm going to talk to you about the 3 issues that keep us from dealing with the real problems that I'm about to name right now. Okay, problem number 1. Single-family households have tripled since the 1970s. Outrageous crazy. Number 2. 75% of all the babies born in the African American community are born into fatherless homes. Number 2. Number 3. 685,000 babies are killed via or by way of abortion every year. Now, that's the Ku Klux Klan's greatest wish. We kill more babies than we kill in black-on-black crime, diabetes, heart disease, all combined. I tell you, if Satan could have created a system to eliminate black people where we use our own people to do it, he found the perfect system. It's the #1 killer of black people. Just so you know. Number 4. 50% of all black teenagers are unemployed. That's a problem. Number 5. 40% of black teenage boys drop out of high school every year. I come from the city of Detroit. The number is higher than that. It's right around 55, close to 60%. Dropout. That's why Detroit is almost a third world nation right now. All right? Number 6. 43% of the prison population of 2 million inmates, 43% of them are black. That's a problem, wouldn't you say? And number 7. Black on black crime. Black on black crime. 70. No. I'm wrong. That's exaggeration. 50%. Okay. Of the nation's crime rate is made up by 14% of the population. We only make up 14% of the population, but we are responsible for 50% of the crime rate. And pretty much 90% or more is perpetrated black man on black man. I don't know about you, my brother, but that's a travesty. That's a real problem. Now, what I want you to notice, you didn't hear me mention one word about racism. Nothing about systemic racism or self-hatred. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is obvious, brothers. Because we've always had racism. And I hope you hear me. We're always going to have racism. And based upon what I've read and what others have told me, I'm not really sure one way or the other whether or not I'm going to really buy this caricature or definition. I am told that black people are unable to be racist, and the reason for it is because of this definition. A racist is an individual or people within a system who have the capacity to force, manipulate any other person in that relationship, well, I would say another person or another class of people, who manipulate and force them to follow or to condone their will, or be compliant to their will. Okay? Now, if that's the case, then I guess we can't necessarily be racist by that definition. We can't be racist by that definition, because black people as a whole, we don't have that kind of authority, because we don't own and we don't control enough real estate, if you will, and we're certainly not a cohesive people who will work together to be able to have that kind of authority over other groups. We just don't. We just don't have that. So as a result, we just end up becoming I guess you can say we become the other party, the party that is to be utilized by the dominant culture. All right, so here are the three major areas that black men are facing, and these areas are identity crisis, an ignorance crisis, and unfortunately an influence crisis. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make pretty much the ignorance and the I guess you'd say the influence are almost self-explanatory, so I'm going to focus all my attention on the first one, which is identity crisis. We are certainly suffering from an identity crisis. You would most likely agree, because this is where we are today. Things are just tore up from the floor up. And so, brothers, the problems that I just named, those 7 issues that's really going on in our community that we tend to be ignoring, those problems have been around since the 1960s. This is 2017. That's 57 years later, and we still have these problems. And so I think whatever it is that we're trying to, or I guess I put it this way, whatever it is we're waiting on, we might as well stop waiting. It's not coming. Okay? It's not coming. So the first problem that we have to deal with is an identity crisis. It's called a corporate mentality of victimhood. That's where we are. Black folks, I don't care whether you're talking about the guy right in the hood all the way up to maybe even the president. We have this sort of closet victimized or victimhood mentality. The Bible says in 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 that God has not given us a spirit of fear, brothers, sisters, but He's given us a spirit of power, of love, and of a sound mind. So there's no reason for us to have the mentality of victimhood, but that's what we have. See, victimology, what it's really about, it's about alienation. It's about powerlessness. It's about surrender. It's about compliance. It's about hopelessness. And that's where many in our culture like to, in a sense, pitch their tent. But the takeaway I need all of you to try to grasp as we deal with this issue of victimhood in our community, and why it's one of the biggest issues that kind of keep black men as a result from really climbing that ladder and pushing forward. No matter how hard life hits, we get up and keep moving forward. The problem is that we don't understand this particular takeaway. And it's this. In America, brothers, blacks have always been victimized. You need to hear that again. Blacks have always been victimized, either real or imagined. But we never, ever saw ourselves as victims. in America, blacks have always been victimized, either real or imagined, but we never saw ourselves. We never chose to be victims. Never. If that were the case, I wouldn't be standing here right now, a free man, talking to you. Because blacks refuse to remain the way we were. So the struggle is what it is. We will always have that struggle. It'll never go away. It's just a given. We just have to accept that. Now, victimhood, the way it's practiced today in our community, what it does is we ignore the unprecedented accomplishments of all the black men that came before me. One thing you need to understand about our community, brothers, is that in 1860, 4 million black people were set free on the American landscape. Not one of them could read, totally illiterate. But in less than 60 years, something unprecedented has happened. Brothers were able to climb that mountain and become literate. Now, what's interesting to me is that we don't celebrate that. It's like we don't know nothing about such a great accomplishment. One of the things no people has ever been able to do, come over here from another country in 1619, been here almost 400 years, under every form of oppression that you can even imagine, from the most brutal to the most benign. But we've been a part of it. We've been a part of it and been able to overcome it, no matter what. So now we're in a position right now that if you were to look at all the income where blacks are right now, according to the conservative commentator Larry Elder, he said, and I quote, "If black America was a country, it would be the 15th largest, 15th wealthiest country in the world." That's how much progress we have made, brothers. That's how well we have done since we've been here. Now, I know we spent a lot of time talking about how bad we got. And I've already alluded to the fact that we are victimized, but we choose not to see ourselves as victims. That's the takeaway. That's the difference. Now, those of you who choose to see themselves victims and act like a victim, I can't help you. I'm going to give you this and I'm going to call it quits, my brothers. Now, how do we solve this identity crisis of victimology or victimhood, that, you know, we have this issue of not being able in our mind to be part of the mainstream? At least that's the way we see it. That's the filter. Well, here's a few things that I suggest. Number one, stop looking to the government. They ain't not going to help you. If you've done any amount of reading, you recognize it's the government that brought us over here in 1619. It took, the reason you know that, because it took the government to set us free, right? It's the government that allowed all of the oppression that African Americans, black people, black folk had to deal with, right? They allowed it. So don't look to the government as your source of identity. That's not where you're going to find it. Number two, stop looking for a leader. He ain't coming. Stop looking for Wonder Woman. You need to be looking for Superman. And you need to look in the mirror. Superman is not coming. Number three, you need to stop looking at institutions of higher learning. This is just my opinion. Many of them, they're fried anyway. They're fried. And what I mean by fried is they're so far right or so far left. They're polarized. There's no common sense anymore. They're just hotbeds for insanity and foolishness. So don't look there. either, all right, for any real identity. Number 4, stop looking to these corny celebrities. You're not going to get validated by these people. They run their lives based upon money. They're lovers of money, not lovers of God. So whatever, you know, as long as they got money, they good. All right? And number 5, the last one. Stop looking to these corny churches. Not all the churches. Don't start throwing rocks at a brother. I'm not talking about all the churches. I'm talking about some of these compromising, feminized, politically correct churches. That's what I'm talking about. I give you context. I'm talking about those kinds of churches, right? So brothers, I want to leave you with these words. And these are going to be the words from Frederick Douglass, one of the first men that really got my attention when I was a child. And I want to read something that he wrote relative to Black Americans. At that time when he wrote it, we were known as Negroes. And so he wrote something that I still to this day believe. And I think that what he wrote was very honorable. I think what he wrote really showed that he believed that black men and women were human beings and deserved the dignity that is afforded any and everyone else on the planet. And so because of that dignity, he felt compelled to say these words. And I quote, this is what he said. He said, everybody has asked the question, what shall we do with the Negro? I have but one answer from the beginning. Do nothing with us. Did you hear that? He said, do nothing with us. Your doing with us has already played the mischief with us. Do nothing with us. If the apples will not remain on the tree of their own strength, let them fall. I am not tying or fastening them on the tree in any way, except by nature's plan. And if the Negro cannot stand on his own legs, then let him fall also. Did you get that, brothers? Then let him fall also. That's respect, brothers. That's our real identity. That's my time. I thank you for yours. I'll catch you on the other side. God bless you.